For 3 summers, the same thing kept happening. I would walk out to the tomato patch before breakfast and find leaves covered in holes that were not there the day before.
The strangest part was not the damage, it was which plants were getting hit. Not the weak ones, not the ones I was already worried about. The strongest, healthiest tomato plants in the garden were always the first to be attacked. Every single time. That made no sense to me. If bugs are just looking for something to eat and land on whatever they happen to find, shouldn't they hit any plant equally? The weak ones, the strong ones, the ones in between.
But year after year, it was always the healthiest plants that went first. So I did what most gardeners do. I bought a spray, then another one. By the 3rd summer, I had a shelf full of bottles, and the bugs were still winning. And then one evening, standing mid-row with a hose in my hand, I realized I had been asking the wrong question the entire time. For 3 years I had been asking, how do I kill what has eaten my plants? I had never once asked, how are they finding my plants in the first place? That question changed everything. Here is what I did not understand for the first 20 years I gardened. A pest does not see your garden. It smells it. Every plant releases chemical signals into the air. Volatile compounds drift on the breeze. To an aphid, a moth, a flea, beetle, those signals are a map. They are not landing at random. They are navigating directly to the host plant their biology is tuned to find. And here is the part that stopped me cold. The healthiest plants produce the strongest signals. A vigorous, well-fed tomato broadcasts louder than a struggling one, which means those healthy plants were not unlucky. They were the loudest. Long before a single bite is taken, the plant has already been found. And if you cannot be found, you cannot be eaten.
That changes everything about how you think about this problem. The question is not how to punish what arrives. The question is how to scramble the signal so nothing arrives in the first place. And it turns out the answer has been sitting in the kitchen the entire time.
I am Eli Yoder. I farm at Maple Creek in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Let me show you what the simple answer that has been sitting in your kitchen all the while.
Garlic on the porch one evening, not for the garden, just for dinner, when I noticed something I had never paid attention to before. A whole clove sitting on the board had almost no smell at all. The moment I pressed the knife flat across it and cracked it open, the smell filled the air instantly. A whole clove of garlic is almost silent. Crush it and it starts shouting. That reaction, what happens when the cell walls break, is what makes garlic useful for this. The crushing releases a compound that is intensely pungent and volatile. When that scent lands on a tomato leaf, it overwhelms and scrambles the chemical signals the plant is giving off. The pest that was following the tomato scent trail arrives and finds the signal confused. The address is wrong. It moves on. I made my first batch with whole cloves that I barely broke apart, steeped it overnight, sprayed it the next morning. Almost no smell. The bugs were completely unbothered. I assumed the recipe was wrong. The recipe was fine. I had not opened the garlic. Crush thoroughly. Break every cell wall you can. The scent is the mechanism. Without it, you are spraying flavored water. Garlic scrambles the signal. The hot pepper does something different. It makes the surface unbearable to land on. To a soft-bodied insect, an aphid, a young caterpillar, a whitefly, landing on a leaf coated in capsaicin is like landing on a hot surface. It irritates the exposed tissue on contact. The insect leaves. Not because it is poisoned, because it cannot tolerate the surface. The two together, garlic masking the scent signal, capsaicin making the surface hostile, create a layered defense. The pest cannot find the plant easily, and if it does find it, it does not want to stay. Another season of this and I would have stopped growing tomatoes altogether. That was the stakes. 3 summers of frustration ended with ingredients I could have carried in one grocery bag. The recipe: 2 to 3 full heads of garlic, not cloves, heads. Crush every clove thoroughly. You want every cell wall broken. 5 to 10 hot peppers, habanero, cayenne, Thai chili, whatever you have. Leave the seeds in, chop roughly. Add to the garlic in a quart jar with 1 quart of warm water. Cover loosely and steep for 24 to 48 hours. Strain it well. You want liquid, not chunks. Add 1 teaspoon, not teaspoon of mild dish soap. That is the one ingredient that keeps everything mixed long enough to do the job. Optional, a tablespoon of neem oil. Not required. The garlic and pepper alone are the core. Wear gloves. This is not a gentle liquid. Total cost, less than $1 from what is already in the kitchen. Sarah asked me why the kitchen smelled like garlic for 3 days after the first batch. I told her it was a garden project. She was not entirely satisfied with that answer. The spray, however, worked. If this is the kind of practical knowledge you are after, subscribe to Amish Roots and Garden. Free, every week. Now, the part that decides whether this works or not. And it is the part most people get wrong. I sprayed at noon once. There was a community work day at a neighbor's place after lunch, and I thought, I have a few minutes before I leave, I will just quickly go do it. The sun was directly overhead. The next morning, the leaves were scorched, brown edges, wilted tips, damage I caused myself with a spray I made to protect the plants. The recipe was not the problem. The clock was. The oils in the spray intensify heat on the leaf surface under direct sun. Applied in midday heat above 85 degrees, the same spray that protects in the morning burns at noon. Spray in the early morning between 6 and 9, or in the evening after the sun has dropped. Never in direct midday sun. Get underneath the leaves. Most soft-bodied pests, aphids especially, feed on the underside, not the surface. If you spray only the tops, you are protecting the part of the plant that was not being attacked. Reapply every 4 to 5 days. After any significant rain, reapply. The spray washes off. It is a renewable signal scrambler that needs refreshing. I scorched a whole row of plants the first time I got this wrong. What about you? Ever had a home remedy backfire because of timing instead of the recipe itself? Tell me what happened. Now, before I tell you all the ways this works, I want to tell you what it cannot do. Last summer, I sprayed a bed of beans that had been getting chewed. Good coverage, proper timing. The spray was fresh. 2 days later, I walked out and found a Japanese beetle sitting calmly on a leaf I had sprayed the morning before. Completely unbothered, not leaving, not even uncomfortable. The spray was not broken. It was never built for that pest. This spray works on soft-bodied insects, aphids, whiteflies, young caterpillars, spider mites, flea beetles in early stages. It scrambles the scent signal they follow and irritates the exposed tissue they cannot protect. It does almost nothing to hard-shelled beetles. A Japanese beetle has an armored exoskeleton. The capsaicin cannot reach the tissue underneath. It does almost nothing to slugs. A slug's mucus layer insulates it from the contact irritation capsaicin causes. It does nothing to pests already inside the fruit or stem. By the time they are inside, no surface spray can touch them. Knowing what a tool cannot do is half of knowing how to use it. Spotting a beetle problem early and reaching for the right tool immediately, instead of spending a frustrated week wondering why the garlic is not working. That is what this section saves you. One more thing. Something I did not expect when I started paying attention to plant scent. I had been using the spray for about half a season when I noticed something that stopped me mid-row. The beds I was treating regularly looked better than I thought they should. Not just fewer holes. Better overall. And then I read something that made sense of it. Plants under sustained pest pressure release stronger distress signals. The more they are attacked, the louder they broadcast. And some of those distress signals do not just tell the pest where to go. They act as a recruiting signal, drawing more of the same species toward the plant that is already under attack. A plant that is being eaten calls for more company. I had been thinking about this backwards. I thought I was stopping pests from finding the plant. What I was also doing by reducing the early damage was stopping the distress signal from amplifying and pulling in the next wave. The spray was not just a shield, it was breaking a feedback loop I did not know was running. The garden that is hardest to find does not just have fewer pests arrive, it has fewer distress signals calling the next round in. One more thing that needs to be said plainly. This spray is not harmless to bees. I know some people say it is, as long as you avoid spraying open flowers. That is not the full truth. Capsaicin irritates beneficial insects on direct contact the same way it irritates pests. A bee that lands on a wet sprayed leaf will be affected. A ladybug hunting aphids on a freshly treated surface will be affected. The protection for pollinators is timing, not some built-in selectivity the spray does not have. Spray in early morning or evening when pollinators are least active. Never spray directly onto open blooms. If a plant is in full flower and crawling with bees, wait until the bloom cycle finishes before treating. I would rather tell you that plainly than let you find out by watching a bee struggle on a leaf you sprayed an hour ago. That is not the kind of garden any of us wants. Controlled studies have shown garlic and chili preparations cut aphid numbers by more than half compared to untreated plants. That is a meaningful reduction for less than $1, within limits that are worth knowing. Here is what I want you to try this week. Crush, do not slice, the garlic and peppers. You want every cell wall broken. Steep for a full 24 hours. Strain it completely. Add the soap, 1 teaspoon only. Spray early morning or evening, never midday. Get up underneath the leaves, not just on top. I have made every mistake on this list, so you do not have to. There was a morning last August. I had been using the spray consistently for a full season by then. When I walked out to the patch before breakfast, the way I always do, I checked under a few leaves. I looked at the stems. I walked the full row, and I realized I had not actually been looking for damage. I had been looking at how the plants were growing. I had stopped checking for problems without noticing I had stopped. The strange thing was not seeing fewer holes, it was realizing I had stopped looking for them. Sarah noticed the damage had stopped before I did, actually. She mentioned it one morning at the table, said the plants were looking good. She had been watching the whole time without saying anything. That is about right for Sarah. She handed a jar of the finished spray to a neighbor at the end of a visit last fall. No instructions on the label, just a date and the word garlic in her handwriting on the lid. The neighbor called back 2 weeks later to ask for the recipe. That is how this kind of knowledge travels. Not through a store, through a jar with a handwritten label and a question that follows. The strongest defense in a garden was never about killing what arrives. It is about making sure it never finds the address. And that is something you can carry in one grocery bag that an entire shelf of bottles cannot do. I used to walk out to that patch wondering what I would find wrong. Now I mostly just walk out to see how things are growing. That is the part nobody tells you about fixing a problem the right way. Eventually you stop thinking about it at all. Subscribe to Amish Roots and Garden. Next time, since we have been talking about what is already in the kitchen, there is a $2 box that has been sitting under sinks for over 100 years that handles a surprising number of jobs around the home and garden. I will show you which ones actually hold up and which ones do not. Tell me in the comments. Which pest has been your biggest frustration this season, and are you trying this spray this week? I read every one.